Welcome to Disney's Wide World of Sports complex at Walt Disney World Resort in Lake Buena Vista, Florida for Magic the Gathering's U.S. Draft Championship. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Todd Harris. Well, the top 8 U.S. draft players have traveled to Florida, all competing for the title of U.S. Draft Champion. Today, the players will have to focus on their drafting skills as they compete in the extremely competitive booster draft format. They will be using the latest Magic expansions, namely Mercadian Masks, Prophecy, and Nemesis. And in Booster Draft, you need skillful drafting as well as deck building to be victorious. Right now, let's join my colleagues, Randy Buehler and Brian Hacker, who have the call.
6 Pro Tour winners, a Pro Tour runner-up, and a 14-year-old wonder kid sat down at one of the most elite booster drafts ever held to kick off the U.S. Draft Challenge Championship. Booster Draft is a fairly simple format. Open a pack of cards, pick one, and pass the rest to the person drafting next to you. But the strategy is deep and complex.
To make it even more difficult, the U.S. Draft Challenge is one of the very first events to use the newest Magic expansion set, Prophecy. In addition to figuring out which colors are being drafted by the players around him, the winner of this event will also need to recognize how Prophecy changes the dynamics of the format.
The U.S. Draft Challenge is the second in a series of Masters tournaments where only the top players in the game are invited. The winner of this event walks away with $8,000. Darwin Castle managed to beat both U.S. National Champion John Finkel and U.S. Nationals runner-up Chris Benefeld to advance to the finals. Controversy erupted in the other semifinal match between Trevor Blackwell and Michael Long. Here's Todd Harris.
I'm joined now by Tournament Director Jeff Dunay. And Jeff, at these tournaments, we always have first, and unfortunately, we had a first of maybe of a negative nature this time.
This was indeed a first. It was the first time we disqualified someone from the draft challenge. That was Mike Long. He had a little problem with his shuffling technique. He had one problem before, so we were forced to disqualify him. I believe he is aware now of the situation, and I think he'll fix it for the next time.
Despite the controversy, 2 of the game's top players landed in the final. Darwin Castle, who has more top 4 finishes than anyone in the history of the game, and Trevor Blackwell, currently the #1 rated player in the world. Let's take a closer look at their decks.
When Trevor Blackwell opened his first pack of cards during the booster draft, he had to choose between a great blue card and a solid green card. He knew that John Finkel got the next card, and Finkel likes to draft blue, so he went with the green card. The result was that he and Finkel wanted different cards from future packs, and they both wound up with good decks.
Darwin Castle put on a clinic during the draft. He figured out from the cards that were passed to him that no one around him wanted to draft black cards, and so he switched into that color. This move really paid off as he got past so many quality black cards that his deck is nearly mono black.
Blackwell and Castle had great success with their decks in the quarterfinals and the semis. Now it's time to find out how their decks face up against each other in the finals. That's Trevor Blackwell on your right, Darwin Castle on your left. Blackwell shuffling up. He's about ready to go.
Remember, the object of the game is to reduce your opponent's score from 20 to 0.
And there we go. There's get a good look at Trevor Blackwell. Earlier this year, he won Pro Tour Los Angeles on the boat in Long Beach. Sort of been around tour for a while, but he busted through in a big way there. That's Darwin Castle, member of Team Your Move Games, and Castle is currently leading the Player of the Year race that'll wrap up at Worlds. Castle's the #2 ranked limited player in the world, and the #1 player is Trevor Blackwell. So it's a battle of titans here. You've got the top 2 limited players in the world. You've got 2 players who've won Pro Tours this year, and what are you looking for in this match, Brian?
Well, it should be pretty interesting. Darwin Castle figures to be the aggressor, playing a fairly fast black-red deck. But on the other hand, Blackwell plans to try to slow the game down playing red-green, which is normally not the role red-green takes in a limited match. But given that Blackwell has the bigger creatures, he should be able to try to stop Darwin and try to push it to a mid-game.
Yeah, Castle has to be the aggressor because he can't deal with Blackwell's large creatures. Once Blackwell gets up to 5 lands in play, he can cast creatures that are just too big for Castle to deal with. So Castle wants to play fast creatures, get in as much damage as he can early, and then finish the game off later on with one of his red cards, one of his bombs that he got during the draft.
And that's the main thing I'm looking at when I look at his deck list. I see a couple cards that really stick out at me. One is Latula, the other one is Rupture. I think those are the 2 really key cards for Castle. Those are the ones he can use to finish off Blackwell if the game gets into a stalemate.
Wow, look at that. He uses Dark Ritual to get a quick burst of speed and put Wild Joval into play on the 2nd turn. Normally you have to wait till at least turn 4 to put the Wild Joval into play, but there's the 3/3 creature on turn 2. That's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, well, Darwin basically took away some of the disadvantage of going second by drawing Dark Ritual and getting out Wild Joval. Should be something of a problem for Trevor Blackwell to deal with.
Blackwell's obviously got something to do. Oh, he likes to use Ristic Lightning to kill the Wild Joval. That's pretty bad for Castle, actually. Blackwell was able to use just one of his cards, the Ristic Lightning, in order to cancel out 2 of Castle's cards. He effectively destroyed both the Dark Ritual and the Wild Joval. So Blackwell has gained card advantage, as we say in the game. He's used one of his cards. If you can just keep 2 for 1-ing your opponent over and over again, you should eventually run him out of cards, and one of the surest routes to victory. Castle plays Kieran Sniper. It's a 1/1 creature that deals 1 point of damage every turn, whether it attacks or not. Not nearly as scary as the Wild Joval. That was a pretty timely Ristic Lightning from Blackwell.
Definitely. I think this has got to be advantage Blackwell, the fact that the game's going pretty slow.
Oh, Hunted Wumpus. Now, when this creature comes into play, your opponent can put a creature into play for free. Hunted Wumpus is 6/6, and Castle got to put a 2/2 into play.
Trevor.
Yeah, this is exactly what Castle said he was afraid of. He was afraid of Blackwell's big creatures, and there you go. Hunted Wumpus is the biggest creature in Blackwell's deck. Doesn't get any bigger than that 6/6 monster. Castle doesn't have anything to do on his 4th turn. Just says done. As you remember, we said Castle's big strategy was to get in as much early damage as possible before Blackwell could cast any big creatures. Well, Castle beat him all the way down to 19.
Let's hear what the competitors in this event think about playing with the new Prophecy card set.
The color balance in Prophecy really seemed to sort of even things out from the other 2 sets.
It looks really good. There's a lot of good red cards and blue cards and green cards, which makes up for the lack of red's power before.
Black had gotten really powerful with the addition of Nemesis, and blue had gotten significantly weakened. But in Prophecy, it's the exact opposite, where blue is perhaps the strongest color and black is definitely the weakest color.
There's at least 6 or 7 high-pick commons in red in Prophecy, so it's went from being a solid color to probably being the best.
Now, almost all the colors are pretty even in their strengths, so really any color is viable in booster draft format.
Challenge at Disney's Wide World of Sports complex in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. Let's take a minute to learn more about this game. Magic is a trading card game. The object is to reduce your opponent's score from 20 to 0. To do that, players send their creatures against each other in waves, always seeking a lapse in the defense or an opening to exploit. To get you up to speed, here are the 3 basic types of cards. Creature cards attack and damage the opposition, and they can be used to block attacks. Then you have spell cards, each with an effect on the game that helps you or hinders your opponent. Land cards are the resources. With more land in play, the creatures get bigger and the spells get more devastating. Magic requires planning, tactics, and the ability to think fast. They say you can learn how to play immediately, but mastering the game can take a lifetime. We're about to rejoin Game 1 of the U.S. Draft Challenge. Let's bring you up to speed on what's happened so far. Trevor Blackwell destroyed Darwin Castle's Wild Joval, played an enormous attacker, and then dropped a Ras Edge, which allowed him to destroy Castle's Kieran Sniper. Now let's see if Castle can come up with an answer to the Wumpus. Here's Randy Bueller and Brian Hacker with the call.
Oh, there's Barbed Field. That's an enchant land, so it's an enchantment you can put on one of your lands, and now you have the choice. You can either tap the land for mana, or, because it has this enchantment on it, Castle can tap the land to deal a point of damage to a creature or a player.
I'll take 6.
Hunted Wumpus comes over, 6 more points of damage to Castle.
Go ahead. Take 1.
Well, we don't know exactly what Blackwell has in his hand, but it's pretty interesting to note that it seems like the Hunted Wumpus is just going to look like it's going to go all the way. It might just win the game all by itself. It appears that Blackwell could actually win just casting 2 spells, the Lightning and the Wumpus.
Castle has Vicious Hunger on the Hunted Wumpus. That'll deal 2 points of damage to it. Now, it has 6 toughness, so that's not nearly enough to kill the Wumpus, but Castle presumably has an extra way to deal 4 points of damage, or does he just want to gain 2 life?
Well, I guess he just wanted to gain 2 life.
Oh, otherwise the Ras Edge would kill him. Blackwell's plan was to throw a land with Wrath's Edge, untap, attack, throw a land with Wrath's Edge. So
Right.
Castle had to use his Vicious Hunger to do nothing other than gain 2 life.
That's right. That can be good for Castle.
Yeah, that Hunted Wampus is putting a lot of pressure on Castle's position. Hunted Wampus deals 6 more damage, knocking Castle down to 4. 1 more Wampus hit's all it'll take to finish him off. Puts another creature into play.
Okay.
That Spitting Spider. Yeah, that's a 3/5 creature which can block flyers. It can also allow you to sacrifice your lands to deal damage to flyers. So another pretty big creature, bigger than Castle has any real way to get rid of.
Talk about the exact opposite draw Castle would have preferred to have seen from Blackwell. This is all these big creatures are the exact type of thing that Castle's deck has difficulty dealing with. He doesn't have that many true removal spells other than the single snuff out that he has.
Right. Yeah, if Blackwell had drawn, Chris Mages, and Spore Frogs, Pygmy Razorback. If he'd drawn the small creatures, Castle would have been able to deal with them. But
Right,
that's not what
okay.
Blackwell drew. Just 2 big monsters. And Castle concedes. Realizes he's going to lose next turn, so he goes ahead and picks up his cards, starts shuffling.
The key play in Game 1 came early. Trevor Blackwell cast Hunted Wumpus on his 4th turn, and all Castle could put into play was a 2/2 that couldn't even block. Castle never came up with any way to deal with the 6/6 Wrecking Ball, and Hunted Wumpus went all the way.
With his recent win at the U.S. National Championships, John Finkel has put some distance between himself and the rest of the game's top career money winners. We'll be back in a minute. Player of the Year, Darwin Castle is currently the leader in this year's race, and a winner will be crowned at the World Championships. Now, back to the competition. Castle sideboarded 2 unusual cards into his deck for Game 2, Strong-Arm Thug and Specter's Wail. Castle's first creature was a turn-4 Wild Joval, and Blackwell has answered with Lesser Gargadon, an enormous creature at 6/4 for just 4 mana. However, the drawback for Gargadon is that whenever you attack or block with it, you have to sacrifice a land.
This is one of those creatures that Castle really doesn't want to see hit the table. It can effectively block anything Castle can throw at it. But if Blackwell it doesn't drop a land next turn or something like that, Castle could be a lot more aggressive in his attacks.
Sure. Castle plays Phyrexian Prowler, a 3/3 creature with fading counters. So it's a pretty good creature, but it only hangs around for 4 turns.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
He's
what?
attacking with the 6/4.
So he sacrifices the land and attacks with the 6/4. Castle can just trade Phyrexian Prowler for it if Castle wants to. I wonder if Blackwell has some sort of trick up his sleeve.
I'll make it a 6/6.
So yeah, the Prowler is 6/6, the Gargadon is 6/4.
Ready to sign damage. So is damage assigned? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jolrial's Favor. This is a creature enchantment which allows Blackwell to spend green and 1 to regenerate the Gargadon. He was able to cast it as an instant. It's going to hang around for the rest of the game, and it allows him to keep the Gargadon right now. Wow, that's pretty effective use of Jolrial's Favor.
Yeah, it really is. Kind of surprised Castle, I'm pretty sure, to play Jor-El's Favor in that situation. And
Yeah, how good do you think that card is?
It's definitely not top flight. It's probably one of the last cards that would go in your deck, but
Sure.
it does have some utility because you can play it as an instant. And that situation right there is probably
That's the best case
that's,
scenario.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best case scenario for that card.
Cost him 4 mana to pull it off, but now he's got that Favor, he got regeneration on that creature for the rest of the game. Castle attacks the Wild Joval.
Oh, that was huge. He gets to play the free Deep with Legate with 4 swamps in play. That's got to be gigantic now, because now he can double up on his plays.
We got the Prowler, of course. He got Phyrexian Prowler back from his graveyard to his hand. Phyrexian Prowler's a mercenary, and the Thug that he just played allows him to return a mercenary from his graveyard to his hand.
Blackwell looks like he's going to take his turn. In the meantime, let's take a minute to learn more about him.
I've been playing Magic off and on for about 4 years. I took about 1.5 years off and started up again about a little over a year ago. I enjoy the competitiveness and the money involved in playing Magic. I play a fun game and actually make a decent amount of money. I would say my chances are pretty much about 50-50. It's it's hard to say. Darwin's a really good player. My deck's decent, so we'll just have to see.
Blackwell's having a lot of trouble deciding what to play this turn. He must have a bunch of options in his hand.
I think earlier Castle was also ribbing Blackwell a little bit too about the
yeah?
slow play. Yeah.
A book to read, right?
Castle just asked if he can go get a book to read. We'll be back when Blackwell finally decides what to do.
Welcome back to Magic the Gathering's U.S. Draft Championship. Before we return to play, let's meet a competitor who's widely considered the hardest working man in all of Magic. He also leads the Pro Player Race of the Year, and he's none other than Darwin Castle.
Well, there's a lot of factors that have led to my success. One of them is just the mere fact that I worked hard to get good many years ago and then didn't move on. I know a lot of Magic players who were most successful back when I first made my top 8 in a pro tour just don't play Magic anymore. It's a time commitment. Like if you're a professional golfer, you need to golf every day, you know, and I'm a professional Magic player. I need to play Magic every day. I need to take it seriously. I'd like to just play Magic. That's a goal of mine, and that'd make me really happy if I could do that.
We're early in game 2 of this best 2 out of 3 matchup. Trevor Blackwell leads 1-0 but he's had trouble deciding exactly what to do here in game 2. It looks like Blackwell has finally made up his mind, so let's go back to Randy and Brian with the call.
Marsh Boa, 1/1 Swamp Walker. That's it? That's all he's got?
Now, in
all
all
that
honesty,
for a Marsh Boa.
that was a pretty embarrassing turn. I mean, Blackwell spent like 6-7 minutes deciding what to do, and his big play was Marsh Boa? Come on. He's got to have something more than that. I still can't get over that Marsh Boa play. He thought for like 5 minutes and then just played a Marsh Boa.
Pardon me? All right.
Blackwell
so
does
you're
indeed
perfect,
block the
man.
strong arm thug. He loses a land and saves a point of damage.
It's not optional, Trevor.
I'm playing which one?
Oh, I see.
Castle's teasing him about how long it's taking him to figure out which land to sack.
Excellent choice. I never liked that picture anyways. All right, how many cards are in, Trevor? Two. Oh, let's work on that.
Oh, Spectre's Whale.
This is the other card that
text.
Castle sideboarded in. It 2 mana and it forces your opponent to discard a card at random. Treetop Bracers.
Wow.
He had the
The
Treetop
black
Bracers in his
Disney
hand. That's what he was thinking about last turn.
all right.
Whether to play the Treetop Bracers. Spectre's Whale was amazing.
Yeah.
What a sideboard.
So far, the 2 cards that Castle brings in look completely awesome. The Strong Arm Thug and the Spectre's Whale.
They've destroyed Blackwell. Wow.
I remember Chris Bakula once told me about Darwin Castle. He said that, I think you're the best player in the world because I look at your decks and they're terrible. I couldn't win a game with your decks.
When we come back, game 2 of the U.S. Draft Challenge continues. Welcome back as we continue game 2. Darwin Castle was unable to take advantage of his momentum in this game or get around that regenerating Lesser Gargadon that Trevor Blackwell played. Now he's so low on life points that he can't afford not to block the Gargadon every turn. Here's Randy and Brian.
Blackwell brings it with the Spider, the Gargadon. And he doesn't forget the Marsh Boa. Oh, maybe Chris Mage is going to come in too. Sure, why not send the Chris Mage, right? Castle's
Yeah,
not going to block that.
Right. At this point, he could
Yeah.
attack with everything, but
He likes to leave it back.
The tool blocks the Gargadon.
The tool is forced to step in front of the Gargadon, and Castle's going to use her ability to deal 5 damage to the Spitting Spider. He's forced to discard 2 cards,
5 damage to the
which is a couple of swamps. 5 is enough to kill the Spider, so it won't deal him any damage this turn, but Latul is going to die. And the Gargadon is going to hang around, and Castle's basically hoping to draw an answer to the Gargadon off the top of his deck. I believe he has only 1 card in his deck that can really deal with it, and that's Snuff Out.
Oh, this happens before that.
yeah, it's got to be the top card of his library to really give himself a chance.
Spineless Thug can't block, sends it in. Did he at least draw a jump blocker? Well, he drew something. Oh, Vicious Hunger. That'll kill the Chris Mage, and he'll gain 2 life. But all that does is put him at 6. Doesn't seem like there's much difference between 4 and 6 when you're attacking with a 6-power creature. And yeah, Blackwell comes to the same conclusion. So Vicious Hunger gives Castle 2 more life. And there's Undertaker. It's a 1/1 creature. Oh, Undertaker would have been killed by Chris Mage. Castle needed to kill Chris Mage before he could even cast the Undertaker. It's not good enough, though. It's just
really
gonna
painful.
all Undertaker can do is step in front of the Gargadon, save Castle for 1 more turn.
Yeah, a few points higher of life, an extra turn, something, and he would have been able to win this game. But instead,
Undertaker's an excellent card.
yeah, instead it looks like it's Blackwell, unless Castle can have a huge pull here. But I think he's really looking at just drawing either Chump Blockers or Snuff out to give himself any kind of chance.
Right. Blackwell sets up a Regeneration Shield just to be safe. Sacks the land. Here comes the Gargadon. Undertaker takes 1 for the team. Marsh Boa knocks Castle down to 5.
Yep. I realize I have no cards in my hand. Need to regenerate. Good habit to get into, I guess. Attack.
He attacks. He's maintaining a calm demeanor.
So it looks like Blackwell should be able to attack for the win
All right,
here.
we'll find out. Sets up a Regeneration Shield just to be safe. Sacrifices the land so he's able to attack with the Gargadon.
Yep.
Here it comes. Castle's got something. Steel Strength is enough to kill the Marsh Boa, but that's it. Trevor Blackwell wins the U.S. Draft Challenge. 2-0 over Darwin Castle.
Thank you.
Blackwell set up Castle beautifully when he attacked with his Lesser Gargadon and appeared to be offering Castle the ability to trade it for his Phyrexian Prowler. However, Blackwell had Jor-El's Favor ready.
Yeah.
The Favor not only allowed him to destroy Castle's Prowler, it also protected the Gargadon for the rest of the game.
Trevor Blackwell wins the U.S. Draft Challenge and takes $8,000 home with him to California. Darwin Castle will have to settle for runner-up, but he still leads the Player of the Year standings. For Randy Bueller and Brian Hacker, I'm Todd Harris. Be sure to tune in again on September 6th for the Magic the Gathering World Championships. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com. Part of the Go Network, go.com.